Hey everyone, we're going to share 101 embossing. First we're going to emboss the sentiment, and then we're going to emboss the butterfly with the white detailed embossing powder. So let's get started. We're going to do our sentiment first, and what we're going to use is this great little tool. It actually works wonderful. It takes the static and makes sure that it doesn't leave any grease. You can also use a dryer sheet if you don't have one of these, so don't feel you have to go out and buy one of them. It's just my little embossing buddy that I just have had for years, and it still works beautifully. And I also do my hands just to get the excess oil off. So you're going to grab your Versamark, and I've already put this sentiment down, and it's from our butterflies stamp set, and so is the other butterfly that we'll use later on. And I'm just going to grab it and just dab the Versamark, and then we'll center this up and we'll stamp directly on it, making sure that you lift up very quickly. And now we're going to grab this little embossing caddy that I have. I've used it forever, and some gold embossing powder that I'm trying out from a new company. I'm not sure if I'm going to put it in the store for sale or not, so I just kind of bought some to try out from a new supplier. I'm not so sure about it, so we'll see. I only want to put the best in my store. And you're just going to tap off the excess and then flip it over and flick it. Just gets more excess off. And you're also, sometimes I just blow. Just kind of look real close, see if we have any flecks and specks of embossing powder that might get caught. And we'll grab our embossing tool. This is mine. I've had it for years. It lives forever. Has never worn out yet, so until it does, I won't be getting a new one. You can see the embossing powder change a beautiful color. It goes from looking like glitter, and then it all turns into melted wax, and it looks just beautiful. And you can kind of see I'm almost done. And there you go. Yeah, that's looking beautiful. And now we'll get on to our second video, our butterflies. So I'll be right back after I clean up. Okay, here we are again. This time we're going to do our butterflies. We're going to use some white detailed embossing powder and from Stampin' Up. And I've also done another video to show you how to color that beautiful blue in the watercolor. I usually print or cut out with my Silhouette Cameo a lot of butterflies, but today I tried a new thing. I used my watercolor cardstock, or my is it cardstock? Watercolor paper, and it worked beautifully, and I'm just so excited that I can cut out and now watercolor perfectly. And so sometimes these get moved around while you're have extras, and so this is how I just make sure I'm on the right side and I'm stamping perfectly. I just line it up and then I flip it over, and then I know that I'm stamping on the right side. And we'll grab our Versamark again. We're just going to plop down, oh yeah, Versamark, just want to make sure I show you what I'm using. And then we're just going to stamp up, ink that thing up real nice and juicy. Now this is a little trickier part. It's hard to get it lined up. Use your Stamp-A-Majig. I know there's a few other new products out there that help stamp too. Go ahead, give it a go. Try anything if it helps you. And now we're just going to stamp. And the thing about Versamark is it gets pretty sticky, so you're just going to have to try to get that off very carefully. I'm just going to lay that flat, and we're going to grab my little, just seeing how it's stamped. Yep, it looks pretty good. I'm just going to get my detailed embossing powder. I'm using an old Stampin' Up one. I used to be a demonstrator for them, and I still have products, so I still use it. And we're just going to cover it all up, and then we're just going to tap it. You can also use a little embossing buddy or a dryer sheet also with the watercolor. I did this prior to the video, so I'm not showing it here. So don't forget to do that too if you feel you need to. And make sure you tap off the excess. Whoops, I just dropped it. And now I'm just going to blow on it just to make sure that it's every little bit's off, because you really want that watercolor to come through and not have it any speckles or specks. And now I'm just going to take a close look and grab my little pincers right here, and I'm just going to kind of rub off the excess where I know that I don't want to have that embossing powder at. And this just kind of helps. You can blow again, just blow that excess off. And then sometimes, most of the time, I use these pincers to grab a hold of my cardstock when I'm embossing because the heat gun does get really, really hot. I also use clothespins, and you can use that, but it's not going to work today because the embossing powder is very close to the edge, and so there's no really way to put the pincers anywhere. So we're just going to heat this up, and again, you'll be able to see the color. It looks like powder and it turns into a beautiful gel, and you're just going to keep moving that heat gun around. Don't leave it still. You want to always constantly move it. If you leave it still, it does burn your paper, and that is not a fun thing. And you don't want it too close either, because if you get it too close, again, it will burn and it will turn a different color. So you just want to keep it a little bit far, just like blow drying your hair. And you're just going to keep over it, making sure you get the edges. And there you have it. Keep going over it, and it is getting very hot on my fingers. It did very toasty. You can also leave it on flat too, but just always be careful that you might burn your countertop or the piece of paper or the wood that you are working with too. That does get very hot too, so I always keep it up on my fingers. And now you can see how beautiful that looks. And then our next step is to color this beautiful thing. And so what we're going to use is our tumbler glass and our number 2. So see you then.